So today we've got Chef Ginger Pierce, the culinary director at the One Hotel West Hollywood. Really fascinating story from coming from New York, here now in West Hollywood, and really leading the sustainability initiative with the whole One Hotel brand.
Yeah, I have been hearing Chef Ginger's name for a while here in West Hollywood, so it was really great to meet her in person and talk to her about what her approach is and what she's doing for the One Hotel in West Hollywood, which is really spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, and it's her passion for sustainability, really incorporating natural ingredients. It was, you could just feel it's so strong, and
very
it's
passionate.
Totally. So why don't we go ahead and hear more from Chef Ginger? Welcome.
Thank you.
Chef Ginger. So this is exciting. Chef Ginger is actually the culinary director of the One Hotel West Hollywood and of the whole West Coast sort of branch of the One Hotel group. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. Well, this will be an interesting conversation. I'm certainly a fan of the hotel, the brand as well too, which we'll definitely do a deep dive into.
The One Hotel is in its short life in West Hollywood, because I think it started here just, 3-4 years ago?
Yeah,
or something
so
like
2019.
Yeah, 2019.
It was
and then
into COVID.
That little thing called the pandemic that we got into. But it is already in the short life in West Hollywood is such a storied place here. And, as Visit West Hollywood, we travel the world and talk to people about why they should come and base their stay in West Hollywood. And everyone always wants to know about the One Hotel. And I saw that just recently, a FAR magazine named it one of the top, I think, 10 hotels to stay in Los Angeles.
Yeah, over the years, we've gotten on a lot of those lists, and it's always exciting. And this year, too, we're on the top 10 of most sustainable hotels.
That's amazing.
Globally. So.
Yeah.
Ooh, congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love the vibe of the One Hotel in West Hollywood because it is based on such a sustainable kind of brand promise, and it feels almost antithesis in West Hollywood, which is so glitzy, and we're all about rock and roll and dressing up and paparazzi and stuff, that it feels real different, but it's also really luxurious, which is cool.
Totally. I mean, what could be more luxurious than nature, right? And having in an urban environment, having all these beautiful plants and feeling so at home in nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, and I think it's interesting. You do bring up that good point as far as the whole feel of West Hollywood and how it is. But I also feel like that whole world, the glitz and glamour, there is absolutely this awareness and this acknowledgement of, we need to make more sustainable choices, and to have that as an option. And that's always, as a former hotelier, that is, for me, really fascinating, because we are seeing more travel consumers go that direction. They want these options. And what the One Hotel does so beautifully is they make it, as you mentioned, luxurious, comfortable, so they can sort of feel good about their choices that they're making.
Totally.
And not compromise the luxury.
Yeah. I mean, after all, we're still offering a luxury product, and we, the focus is just about letting nature be a part of that.
Yeah. Before we kind of continue to talk about the One Hotel, I want to share would love to hear a bit more about your journey. I know that you got started in New York, but then how did it lead you to this current role?
So I was actually born in Alaska.
Amazing.
So talk about a beautiful, bit of nature. My parents moved to the Bay Area when I was 4 years old, and I kind of grew up going to a lot of farms, eating a lot of fresh local produce. My mom was always growing stuff in the backyard. It eventually kind of pushed me to cooking, and I was a vegan, and my parents had no idea what to serve me. So I had to cook for myself. And that's really what drove me into the profession.
Wow. How old were you when you became vegan?
I was 15. I became vegetarian when I was 14. And for me, a lot of it was about the environment, you know, and about making the impact that commercial farming or that, you know, large scale meat production had on the world.
Yeah.
So that's always been a big focus for me. But I ended up going to the California Culinary Academy in San Francisco and really kind of edging into farm to table cuisine in like the year 2001. So it was like pretty early for me.
That is so aware for that young.
Oh,
like
I
at
mean,
14,
yeah.
15.
I was always a nerd, you know.
Wow.
My parents too, like coming from Alaska, there was just always this reverence for like the world and nature.
Of course.
And it was a big part of our lives. A lot of camping, a lot of trips to like Point Reyes or, you know, different beautiful places in California and Alaska. But it made me always want to preserve it and have that kind of be a part of who I am and what I want to do in the world. So, you know, eventually I decided I needed to kind of make my impact, right? Get my chops in cooking. So I was like, I got to move to New York City because that's where you go,
That's
right?
where you go.
That's like where you go to make it. So I moved across the country. I didn't know anybody in New York City. I had like, this was, you know, pre-internet, all the searches. I had the Zagat's,
Oh my gosh. And
I
how
had
old
the
are you?
Zagat's Guide to New York.
Printed.
Yeah,
right? In book form.
I moved
Yeah.
into a hostel on Amsterdam and
wow, you
100th.
really-
Like I really was just like,
You
I'm
did
going
it.
to do this. And I got a job at this restaurant called Barbuto, which is in like meat packing. And there's this amazing chef, Jonathan Waxman, who is kind of considered to be the guy that brought California cuisine to New York. So it was like very, you know, farmers market driven. And this was around 2004. So I started at this restaurant and he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. And this is rustic Italian food. So just really beautiful, like charcoal grill, everything
Yeah.
in meatpacking district in New York. But I worked for him off and on many years. I worked also for Mark Meyer and Vicky Freeman in New York, who have a bunch of restaurants there. And he ended up, he's going to open a restaurant called Jams in the One Hotel Central Park, which this was supposed to be the first hotel that was going to open in the brand. And he said to me, do you want to come be the executive chef for the hotel? And I said, absolutely not. Because I was a restaurant chef, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, to me, hotels were all about, you know, opening eggs from hard-boiled eggs from a bucket. Or
You
like
also probably
serving
felt like it would be more constrained, right?
yeah, serving frozen canapes, right? To me, that's what I thought of because, you know, I was like this farm to table chef, right? That did everything from local farms and from the farmer's market. And he was like, no, this brand is going to be something different, right? It's going to be focused on, you know, bringing farm to table cuisine to a larger scale. And to me, that was like, wow, I could really make a bigger impact because we were already doing, you know, like compost and recycling and things like that on a large scale. So it was like, I could do this more than just a 200-seat restaurant. I could do this in a 280-room hotel.
Yeah.
And really then maybe I could be a part of this brand and take it national. So for me, like hotels, restaurants, we create a lot of waste.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
an opportunity to really change the industry. So I ended up there in 2015. I opened One Hotel Central Park as the executive chef. And I worked in New York 17 years. All my family is in California and Alaska. So I was like, eventually, I think I want to go back to the West Coast. And when pandemic hit, I have two kids. New York felt very small and tight. Our apartment felt very tight. So I decided it was a good time to make the move. And there was an opportunity here at the West Hollywood property. And I've been here since August of 2021.
Yeah. So talk to us about this garden because this is really neat.
So in New York, I couldn't have this. They have a few rooftop herbs there, but you know, you just can't get the real estate that you can get
Yes.
here. But it's a huge little plot on our loading dock. And right now I have corn, I have tomatoes, I have sunflowers, I have herbs. And then I also have a beehive. And so
Amazing.
that ecosystem kind of, they support each other. The bees are the pollinators and the garden gives, you know, nectar to the bees. and we are able to harvest the honey. So I actually just like 2 weeks ago harvested 50 pounds of honey.
That's amazing.
From our hive.
Wow.
And
are you out there doing that yourself?
Oh yeah.
You're like,
we
not shy.
and I'm allergic to bees.
Oh my gosh.
It makes it more exciting.
It's
a thrilling process.
Oh my God.
Exciting is one way to put
But
it.
no, the bees are super mellow.
So I want to definitely talk about the menus, but obviously the huge focus of the brand, even what you do, what you've been all about is all about sustainably sourced. And so for those that might, I mean, we have a concept of that, but how do you guys define that? Like, what defines something?
What
as
does it all mean?
I know.
Yeah.
What does it all mean? Like, is it like, does it have to be within 30 miles? Like, I know that sounds silly and probably a little bit too specific, but
I don't think it's silly, right? Because we have to consider the carbon impact of how far things travel.
Totally.
Right? There's, when things are flown in from South America, there's a tremendously bigger carbon impact than if they came from 50 miles away.
Totally.
Right? So we try to cook seasonally, very easy in California.
Yes.
Much easier than New York.
Much easier, I'm sure.
And funny enough, though, in New York, most of the farms were about 100 miles from New York City because that's just the Fertile Crescent there, how it is. Here, most of the farms are more like 200 miles because you just have a lot more urban sprawl and they're more collected in Central Coast or towards San Diego. But we factor it into every layer, even beyond just saying, oh, this is the best local produce that there is, like, where is the seafood coming from?
Yeah.
Where is the meat coming from? We buy organic. We look for heritage breeds. Even what packaging do they use?
Yeah,
are they
huge.
Are they over packaging the things that they are sending us? Like, can we buy the flour in bulk instead of buying small bags? All of those things factor into our decisions because we also track all of our waste at the hotel. So we have a system where when you bring out a bin of compost or a bag of recycle, you weigh it.
Okay.
Because we're actually trying to be, in a sense, zero waste, where we're diverting at least 90% of our waste away from the landfill.
Wow.
So that's like a brand-wide initiative. And we're doing pretty well over there.
That's so it's amazing because it really is. There's so many details to that.
Yeah.
And to me, it's fascinating, and it's so important that we've got brands, communities, like people pushing forward this initiative because it's
huge.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people don't realize how, you think, oh, it's so convenient for me to grab this disposable cup, right? Because it's just easier. Because when I'm done with it, I'm just going to throw it away. But there's nothing convenient about something rotting in a landfill for thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
So I know I'm being a little exaggerative, but
No,
it
it's
adds
true.
up too. Like if each one of us grab a cup, that's 6 cups, that's 10 cups, right?
No, it adds up.
So it's cool to be a part of minimizing that and kind of bringing a little bit of light to it.
Well, I think that what you have done so great and with the brand is that, I want this to sound right, it doesn't feel like that. Because when you're going to a hotel and having a luxurious experience, you don't want to sacrifice either. You don't want to feel like you're having to settle for, okay, I'll settle for that. At the one hotel, and with everything that you're doing, it still feels just amazing and it feels luxurious. And the fact that you're actually getting to that 90% number that you talked about is really cool.
It's inherent to our culture, and it really, I think the perception of value is so much greater because when you hold a glass rather than a disposable cup, or you hold, there's just a better sense of value for what you're doing or what you're feeling, and really it's about experiencing something special, something luxurious.
Yeah. What are the restaurants at the West Hollywood, the one hotel, West Hollywood?
Just about to ask
that that you oversee.
Okay, so we have One Kitchen, which is kind of our breakfast and lunch restaurant. There's a lot of, options there we have smoothies, we have juices, we have handmade pastries, lots of really awesome salads and celebration of we get local eggs from Chino Farms and lots of amazing things. So that one is open in the mornings and for lunch. And then we have our Juniper Lounge and Garden, which is serving dinner and snacks in the evening. And that is kind of like a Mediterranean celebration of California. And so there's a lot of like fun different snacks, but you can also get a really good burger from grass-fed beef. And then we have Harriet's Rooftop, which just has like the best view of any of the places I think around here.
100%.
You can see
Best view in Los Angeles.
It's so good.
Yes.
And so that kind of is like a more fun vibe. Usually there's DJs, again, like snacks, and that runs into the late night. And then we also have a pool, and we serve food on our pool deck, and that has a good view as well. And then we have obviously our in-room dining experience too.
Like, has there been, a favorite dish of yours that you've created over the years? I know that's a big, bold question, but I mean, again, every season you're sort of re-inspired.
I do have a couple of signature things that even I brought from New York, and one is called a superfood salad. I eat pretty healthy, but I also like a burger. I'm not vegan anymore.
Oh, I was going to ask.
But it's got to be
when you said a burger earlier.
It's got to be grass fed.
And cheese. When you said cheese,
I have to know where the beef comes from. For me, there's certain things where I'm like, I care about what I'm consuming and what the impact is, but I still indulge. Maybe not every day, right? But I have the superfood salad, and it has this like really kind of fun, spicy dressing. And then it's a mix of different vegetables with kale, which kale, you really got to get something strong on it to give it the flavor. But it also has crispy shallots and this like sesame ginger mix on there. So it's crunchy, and you can just throw different seasonal vegetables in there. And then that also translates into a wrap, which we do kind of that salad mixture with smoked tofu and avocado.
Oh, wow.
And, that's all together. There's also a vegan coconut oatmeal cookie that we have there. That's amazing.
I know where we're going for lunch today.
But our chocolate chip cookie is really good too. And we do have a vegan chickpea burger as well that comes with spicy lemon tahini. And that's really different. Like a lot of the impossible meats or things, God bless them. I know a lot of people like them, but I also just like a bean burger, or like this is more like a falafel.
Yeah.
And it's crispy and it's delicious. So I like to get carnivores that, are maybe on the edge, and I can bring them over even just for a meal.
Yeah. Oh, of course. So as a chef, do you find that West Hollywood tends to like attract and also support these more businesses that are being more sustainably minded? And do you feel like even the people coming here are opting for that?
100%. I think there's a lot of people who that is a big focus for them, but there's also people where they just want this beautiful hotel, which is so wonderful to stay in and is such great hospitality and a good experience. And to me, what is so cool is either way, they're still contributing to sustainability, whether they know it or not. And we make it feel easy. It's like you said, like it's something that is part of our culture and inherent to the way we operate. And we found a way to make it convenient in a sense. And that's in my kitchen, my compost bins are very unique because I put a green bin on top of the trash can. Because I always said, if it's not convenient, people won't do it.
So
you have to find a way to make it inherent. So I think that's what's cool about One Hotels is they've really found a way to think about how can we structure things differently to make it, satisfy both luxury and sustainability.
Yeah. And again, it's that ease, and it's just so long as you make it easy.
Yeah. And, we are excited to have you. Come see us. It will be a good time.
Yeah. It's an amazing property. And thank you for everything that you're doing there.
Oh, thank you
to
for
really
having me.
Promote the brand and to do better for the world. I think it's really, it's a lofty and noble cause, but it's also just luxurious and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
It's worth it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I love being in West Hollywood. So you can't beat the weather.
You can't.
Yeah.
And it's so centrally located.
For sure.
You've got everything here.
Yeah.
At your fingertips. Well,
thank you, Chef Ginger.
Thank you so much. So today's guest, we have Tara Punzone, who is the chef and owner of Pura Vita restaurant, which is right here in West Hollywood. It is the very first plant-based Italian restaurant and wine bar, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, I love hearing Tara's story about transplanting here from New York City and opening this first vegan restaurant and really building community around what happens in West Hollywood.
Yeah, it's got this really cool New York vibe to it. And we got to go there and try a bit of the food, and it is delicious.
Yep.
So definitely want to tune into this episode and hear more of Tara's story.
Tara, it's great to have you here.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, so Chef Tara Punzone, did I say it right? I love that. So owner and chef at Pura Vita,
Yes.
which is really great. I'm excited to just hear a little bit more of obviously your story, but then everything that you have going on at your restaurant. I know that it's sort of expanded as well, but would love, I guess, why don't we just get started with your background? Just share a little bit about like where you grew up, also what led you into having a sort of plant-based lifestyle, because that's certainly a part of your restaurant. Because I think you opted for a plant-based lifestyle at a pretty young age, right?
Very young, yeah.
Great, I love that. No, it's perfect. So we'd love to hear more about it.
Okay. Start with that.
Yeah, start with your background.
That's definitely the beginning of
Yeah,
the story.
I mean, it's the beginning. It's led till today.
So, well, let's just preface it with I grew up in a very stereotypical Italian American, New York family.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of meat and there was a lot of food all the time. It was always about food.
Yeah.
Everybody in my family worked in the food industry. They were all cooks. Nobody would use the word chef back then. But I was always surrounded by food. And I was always uncomfortable with certain things, but I had no idea really why. But like chicken on a bone or, I don't know, just certain things, pork chops or things like really upset me as a very, very young girl. And so I didn't eat that kind of stuff. But I did eat, my mom's meatballs and things that were like unrecognizably an animal.
Yeah.
And then in the 5th grade, I had a teacher who showed the class a video of a slaughterhouse. And so as soon as I understood what I always kind of, I think, felt somewhere deep down inside, but had no way of understanding or making the connection, I realized I just didn't want to be a part of that in any possible way because I love animals so much.
Yeah, of course. It's always interesting to hear, where, like everyone's story sort of like comes from and then what sort of like led them to where they are today. So how'd you end up here and then opening up your restaurant?
So I met a man.
I know how this goes.
You've seen this movie before.
Yes.
When we met in New York, he was moving here. He's in the film industry. And I was like, why are we even going to date? I would never live in LA. I hate LA. Oops. And so he stayed in New York a year longer than he intended to. But he was like, I have to move because like I can't work here. I need to go there. And so he moved here and we were doing long distance, but I couldn't deal with that. So I was like, let me just try it. I never lived, the only place outside of New York I ever lived was in Rome, which was my favorite place I've ever lived. But I just sort of came here thinking, let me just give myself 6 months. I'm sure I'm going to hate it and go right back. Brooklyn's not going anywhere. It's fine. But I never went back.
No, I get it. I feel like Los Angeles, West Hollywood has that effect on people.
So I had to kind of go around and see all the neighborhoods and understand what I really wanted. And then I found West Hollywood to be, to me, the most similar type of community as the one I felt in New York.
Completely.
Where like people like look out for each other and like talk to each other.
And people can walk around.
You can walk around.
Yeah, there's a nice nightlife scene, really great restaurants.
Yeah, and it's like eclectic and diverse, and there's like, less judgy. Because, LA could be a little judgy. But West Hollywood seemed to be separate from all of that.
West Hollywood really is separate from that, for sure. And it's very much of a very welcoming sort of community. So let's talk about your restaurant.
Okay.
So you end up moving here. You're like, okay. Well, no, but you move here. So then, how'd you start your restaurant here then?
So the first 5.5 years that I lived here, I worked at a different restaurant. I was the culinary director, so there was 3 locations. I opened a 4th. I really learned a lot about business.
Yeah.
And felt like I was able to understand, like, finally how to do my own thing without making a lot of mistakes that a lot of people
happen
make.
along the way, but hopefully less.
Of course. And then that restaurant that I was working for was sold to new ownership, and I decided that the change wasn't for me. It
And
was
now
time
is the
for me
time
to
for
move
you.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
also inspired by my 40th birthday, I took my family to Italy to see family and to celebrate my birthday.
Yeah.
And in the time that I had not been to, because I usually go every year, I had skipped a few years because it's so much further from here.
It is.
And by the time, like in the time that I had missed in Rome, all these vegan restaurants opened up that weren't there the last time I had been there. And I was like, oh my God, if I don't do this now,
Yeah.
then somebody else is going to do it. And I really wanted to be the first
Yes.
100% vegan Italian restaurant. So it really put a fire under my butt. And I came home and just started looking for locations, and got like super lucky.
Yeah. No, I mean, and we'll definitely want to talk about the location.
And that was 2018?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So yeah. So, I mean, you are the first 100% plant-based Italian restaurant and wine bar in the U.S.
Yes.
That is awesome. Congrats on that. That's so cool. And then, I mean, and you happen to be here in West Hollywood, which is even more amazing. So, how did the location, the menu, all of this, even the design of it, because it definitely has a little bit of a different feel as far as the interior. Like, I mean, you chose that. How'd that all come together?
Well, the location was just, I lived in West Hollywood and I wanted to
Be in West Hollywood.
have my restaurant in West Hollywood. I mean, it was just that simple. The design of the place, so growing up in New York, there's a big difference between, I'm not Italian from Italy. I lived in Italy for a little while. I was lucky enough to have that opportunity, but I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah.
And I wanted the inside of the restaurant to reflect that.
Yeah.
I wanted it to feel like Brooklyn. I wanted to feel that nostalgic feeling that I have if I go back to an old restaurant that I went to when I was a kid, which is like brick. First of all, they're all long and skinny.
It's true.
And it's like, dark ceilings and brick and just the smell of the espresso as soon as you walk in the door. Like, you have to put the espresso machine right by the front door so you can get that. I don't know. It's just like all those little details that make me really, really nostalgic for places that I frequented growing up.
Yeah.
And we did it all ourselves. So
That's so cool.
we did everything.
Hard work, but it's amazing when you get to put it together.
It's
yourself.
so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the
I'm so
menu.
proud
So
of
then,
it.
like, were you kind of inspired by? I mean, obviously, your own. Yeah. What inspired the menu? I'm sure it was a mix of like family recipes, but then was it even that last trip that you had to Rome? That when you went to Rome and experienced these other.
I mean,
vegan
I already
Italian
had like a scroll of
You're
a
like,
menu
I
ready.
knew
but
what I was doing. You knew it before.
Editing was the hardest part because I
Yeah.
had so many ideas. But no, I mean, most of it is just food that I grew up eating.
Yeah.
That I had worked very hard to, change the recipes slightly so that they don't have any meat or cheese in them, or that they have cheese, but cheese that I make.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is just very, very simple pasta that I grew up eating. Some of it is not that. Some of it is stuff that I experienced while I lived in Rome. So my family comes from the south of Italy, so everything I grew up eating is more like from Napoli or Calabria, that style of cooking. And Roman cuisine is like slightly different. So carbonara, cacio e pepe, those types of things are definitely inspired
Cacio
from.
pepe. Sorry, I'm back. I'm back.
Go there. Go there. So so it's basically a mix of that, but everything is really like Rome south.
Yeah.
Of the, as far as the cuisine gets very different when you go north.
Oh, completely. So, I mean, what would you say? I mean, do you have a favorite dish? I know that's hard because they're probably also special to you.
Yeah, it depends on what mood I'm in.
Okay, well, rattle off a couple so we can get intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, I eat the Caesar salad every day. that's just me trying to like make sure I get my kale in
Your
and
greens, yeah.
you know. But I do literally eat pasta every single day. I eat pasta. It's almost embarrassing, but
No, because it's. I mean, look, when it's done and it's fresh and it's. I mean, you're making it. You
Yeah.
know what goes into it.
yeah, everything is organic. It's super clean ingredients. We don't use any like packaged stuff, so
Yeah.
it's like I know that it's a pretty carb heavy diet, but it's all very clean and healthy. So
And then how do you go about sourcing maybe ingredients? Are you very mindful as far as trying to keep it more local or how what's your
as far as
process for that?
produce, I do try to keep it local with local organic farmers. Local, like generally speaking, within California. Like
Yeah.
obviously, you have to go a little bit past some boundaries sometimes
course.
for certain things. But also, a lot of the other things are imported from Italy. So with certain flowers and the San Marzano tomatoes and the olive oils and stuff like that, that's all Italian.
Yeah. Do you have so as a concierge and being somebody I've been vegetarian for most of my life, and there are many wonderful plant-based restaurants here in West Hollywood. So first of all, do you feel like being here, do you feel like it's been sort of you have like a receptive crowd? Do you find that there are people that are even like new to that sort of lifestyle that come into the restaurant? What are you kind of like seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool that there's quite a few vegan plant-based restaurants
Yeah.
in West Hollywood. It's almost like a little collection of
Yeah.
us, and I like that. I mean, I know
And they're all different style cuisines
they're all
too.
different, and I know some restaurant owners might say, "Oh, it's competition; it's not good for business." But the thing is, for me, I want every restaurant to be vegan. So to me, it's not about competition; it's about not eating animals.
Yeah.
Which means I want as many of us to be doing that as possible. And I think there's space for all of us. I really do think that. But we're also different from one another. That
Completely.
I think that it's wonderful. But being in West Hollywood, which is really cool, is that like all the vegan community comes to you within reason. As long as it's not crazy far, but even sometimes still.
Yeah.
But what's cool is that a lot of people who just live in West Hollywood are coming and they always say, "I'm not vegan." It's like an apology.
Yeah.
It's like, that's even better.
Yeah.
Because the idea is I want non-vegans
Yeah.
to come into the restaurant and not be freaked out by the fact that it's vegan and to just enjoy a really good dish of pasta and not have like, a lot of people have this idea of what vegan food is, that you're going to be eating like chickpeas and sprouts or some hippy dippy dish, but it's like really good pasta
Yeah.
can be vegan and you never have to use the word vegan.
No.
Just move it over. It doesn't matter.
Just
That's like a
move it-
secondary
So funny.
thought.
People feel like they have to be in the club before they come in.
Yeah.
And it's like this apology,
that's
like,
really-
well, I'm not vegan. And I'm like, that's great. That's really great. That's even better. And then I laugh. Sometimes it's like, well, what is the pasta made out of? And I'm like, it's pasta. Because, like, I don't know if they expect it to be zucchini noodles or some weird thing.
Yeah,
but
or they're thinking that because some pasta has egg in it, right?
Some pasta has egg in it, but
so
it's-
that's probably what they're
yeah.
thinking. Or
Yeah.
I guess who knows?
If they get that far. That's your attitude about it is really cool.
Yeah.
And I think, I spend a lot of time trying to tell people about why West Hollywood is a special place and why if they come to Los Angeles, they need to stay here. And everyone that we've talked to, both on this podcast and people that I interview, talk about West Hollywood being a place where is very accepting. Like you be you, I'll be me. We're all going to get along. It's all really good. And I love your attitude about that people might be nervous about going to a vegan restaurant because they're not vegan.
Right.
But you're like, bring it on. Let's just, we're all together and just see how this goes. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's really kind of an analogous thing for what the whole city is like.
Yeah.
And I think it's very welcoming. It's be whatever you want, whenever you want kind of thing. So
Totally.
that's cool.
And I think it makes it really special because what ends up happening is the non-vegan guests who are eating are apprehensive or they have an idea in their head and then they eat and all of it just disappears. It's like they forget where they even are. It becomes a non-issue. They're enjoying their meal. They're drinking their wine. They're talking to the person next to them. And it's just this experience that is exactly what I want you to have, regardless of what you do on any other day. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just want you to enjoy a good Italian, just a real dish of pasta and, a solid glass of wine, and not think about the rest of it. Let me worry about the rest of it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, and I think one thing that's really cool that we accomplished in up here in West Hollywood location is that we have this big, beautiful bar. And there's something about that bar that is so, I don't know, it somehow, the energy inside the restaurant or whatever it is, encourages the people specifically who are sitting at the bar. I see people, they're all talking to each other. Mm-hmm. They're sharing food with each other, total strangers.
I love that.
And exchanging numbers and things that you just don't really see that often. And I don't mean because they're interested in each other, because they're just being friendly. Like just the other day, there was a young woman and an older man who was waiting for his husband, and she got a calzone. She didn't realize how big it was, so she gave half of it to him while he was waiting. And it was this really beautiful exchange of people who seemingly have nothing in common, but then the next thing you know, they're having this really great time together, and it's at my bar eating my food, and it's I don't know, it makes me feel like I've accomplished exactly what I was hoping, but wasn't sure was possible. I
mean, you've created this sense. You've created a little community, and it's finding this home in West Hollywood where people can come in, and again, they feel comfortable enough that they're next thing you know, they're literally sharing food with somebody they didn't know 10 minutes before. Which is
really
incredible.
cool.
That's so cool. Well, this has been such a great conversation.
Really awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in
Thank you
and
so
telling us your
much.
story.
And I will be in
Really inspiring.
many times.